doing freelance security work in 2012-13. And in fact, like I'll go a step back even from that. So how I got into security is also super interesting, which kind of like tells everyone about how life is. So I was actually doing web application development, and I had my own product in 2010-11. So that was doing fairly well. I had good revenue coming in. I had good users flowing in. But obviously at that time, I was still in school, to be honest, and did not care about security at all. It was just like build something, get it out, get users, and have fun while building it. Learned a lot while doing it. Uh, was super interesting project, but obviously since I did not care about security at all, once it got big enough to get attention from the bad folks, notorious folks, it got hacked, it got defaced, and sort of like the website went down and stuff happened. So which was like a very interesting moment in my life, because that is what got me into security. That one incident is like, I was like, yeah, I can't let this happen again. And that's when I started learning about security. Like, I've been self-taught most of my life. Nobody really teaches cybersecurity in school, at least in India, and especially not back then. So when this happened, it just got me hooked into security so much. I first started from like learning how it happened, why it happened, and then just kept on learning about different attack vectors, different things that can happen, and so on. So that is how I got into security. It was never planned or anything, and I think that's how life is. uh, Nobody really googles web3 or blockchain. They just come across bitcoin or something like that and then just get reeled in. uh, so you just have to be flexible in life in that way. Then from security, how I got into blockchain was also a bit coincidental. So I was working on a freelance gig for someone. That company just got like a ransomware attacked, and they paid out the ransom. Everything went fine. The ransom was paid on Monero. The people actually wanted to, the company who paid the ransom, they wanted to figure out if they can find out who the attacker is, who the hacker is, so that potentially they can sue them or whatnot. So they got me engaged. That's when I first learned about Monero. It was 2013. Monero and everything was still very early. In fact, it was like a Bitcoin precursor to Monero. So started looking into Monero. Uh, that is how I got introduced to blockchains. I really came there for the private transfers, not really the blockchain bit, not smart contracts, not anything else. But once I got hooked into the ecosystem, it slowly pulled me in. Once I learned about Monero, I learned about Bitcoin. Then from Bitcoin, I learned about Ethereum, which was just being launched. And like I've done a bunch of things. From Ethereum, I was working on proof of stake research from 2015 to 17 or so. In 2017, when the ICO boom started or getting picked up, I got into development. So developed a bunch of smart contracts. Worked on it for like, I did smart contract development till 2019 or so, and then sort of got bored of it in some sense. So I was like, yeah, let's do something different. There was like DeFi or anything didn't really exist in 2019. So at that time, the most interesting thing I found was Polkadot, just because the scaling architecture they have taken. Honestly, right now everyone is just converging to the same architecture. Ethereum 2 with sharding and their beacon chain and execution layer. It's the same principle as what Polkadot has with a hub and parachains. Cosmos has the same thing. Rollups are like to an extent a very similar concept. So yeah, I just found that concept very interesting. I worked on Polkadot for 2 years till 2021. Worked on the core tech, helped build substrate and so on. And then in 2021, like in 2020, I would say DeFi is starting to get picked up. I got, obviously I was keeping track of everything on Ethereum even then. I got really excited about it. And in 2021, early 2021 is when I decided to come back to Ethereum smart contract development or DeFi or whatever, because that's when like it had really picked up. It was super interesting. I joined Sushi, led the research and development there for about an year. And then I came back to Polygon. I came to Polygon basically because Polygon needed someone to lead their security efforts. I have a unique like combination of skill set where I know how blockchains work. I have blockchain development experience and I have traditional security experience from back in the days. So like I can combine both of them to keep a blockchain company secure. And that's super important. Like right now, to be honest, just comparing uh, the wider ecosystem, some companies have people from that do like blockchain security, so they do smart contract audits and stuff, but they don't do the traditional side. For example, the Ron and Bridge hack, which was like a $600 million hack, there was nothing wrong with their blockchain tech, but they didn't have anyone do the traditional side. They just had their keys compromised. So yeah, you definitely need a mix in this space, and that's where I come in. So that is basically about my journey, and now like I'll talk about how newer people can break in. So obviously, first of all, everyone will have a different journey. Like if you try to replicate someone else's life, it won't happen. So my first advice is to just follow your passion. Don't really think about money or anything like that. Just do what you enjoy doing. You will eventually find your way. uh, if you like, you just have to be one of the best at what you do, and that will only happen if you really enjoy what you're doing. So people tell everyone that pick this field, it has a lot of scope, or pick this, doesn't really matter. In every place you just have to be at the top to actually make it. Unless you just want to be unless you just want, if you have lower goals, obviously you can pick a comfy job, you can sit in a government office and enjoy your life. But if you are ambitious person, if you want to reach some bigger roles, bigger like dreams or whatever, just then think about what you really love doing, and just keep learning about it, keep doing it, get the best at it. And there are opportunities in all space. So blockchain development, obviously you can start with Solidity. If you want to do smart contract development, you can learn Rust or Golang. If you want to contribute to a code level, you can learn even TypeScript if you want to contribute to front ends. These are the tech stacks. But taking a step back, honestly, the best, if you want to get into the blockchain space, learn about what blockchains are first. Don't really start developing on them. Learn about the ecosystem, how that works, what blockchains are, uh, how people like, why they are important, why people are using them, why do you think they might have a good future. If you think that makes sense to you, if you think you can relate to all of those things, then you can figure out like how exactly you can contribute to that ecosystem, or how exactly you can get involved. You can be a developer for sure, but that's not the only position or only way you can contribute to this ecosystem. You can be an entrepreneur, you can be a product manager, you can be a marketing person, you can be a BD person, you can do security, you can do a bunch of things. So just figure out if you enjoy the blockchain space, and then figure out like what you actually enjoy doing. If that is development, which I suppose might be true for the most of the people that are in a hacker house, so I'll focus on that. But it doesn't need to be a developer role. It's not bad to be not a developer. um, every role is important. You won't find a successful company just built by developers. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So with development, so first of all, just learn about blockchains in general, how they are working, and so on. Then you have to make a choice, to be honest, that do you want to work on smart contracts and build applications on top of blockchains, or do you want to work on the core technology itself? If you want to build the blockchains themselves, if you want to build scaling solutions for the blockchains, for example, if you want to build rollups or like low level technology. So if you want to work at a lower level, then you would want experience in Rust or Golang mainly. If you have prior experience in Java, C, C++, or other low level systems languages, that would definitely come handy. If you have worked with compilers or assembly language or any low level code in the past, that will again come handy. But is a more, this path is a more involved path. That is like you would need to learn a lot to get good at it, to like get to a good position or get a good job. You have to have a lot of pre-existing knowledge. uh, but the good thing about this knowledge is that it's all generic knowledge. It's not really blockchain specific knowledge. Learning Rust or Golang does not tie you down to just blockchains. if blockchains die down 2 years down the line, you'll still have a bright future working on Rust. Everyone is using Rust these days. For example, Mozilla created it, so obviously using it. Google uses it, Microsoft uses it, Cloudflare is pushing it fast, Facebook is using it, Amazon is using it. So Rust definitely is has a bright future. As you can probably tell, I am biased towards Rust. Really love it. So that's one thing. And then with Golang, Golang is also very widely used. Obviously, Google pushes it super hard, and Golang, a lot of APIs and tooling is now being built in Golang. So Golang also has a very safe future. If at this point I would say you are not 100% sure if you want to get into blockchains or not, but you want to try out the blockchain space, then this path might make more sense for you, because you won't have like wasted learning here. You would learn the good actual tech, and then you can see if the blockchain space works out for you. If not, all of this experience can be used in other jobs as well. Then the second path, which is high risk, high reward, is building on top of blockchains. So if you want to build a dApp on top of blockchain, so any smart contract based application uh, launched on Polygon, Ethereum, or anything like that, then you would want to learn Solidity, which is used to write smart contracts. Solidity is a more niche language, so the things you learn from Solidity, you can't really translate them into any other job. So, as I said, this is a high risk, high reward opportunity. If you can get good at Solidity, it's super high reward, because there are very few people in this space who can actually write good Solidity. So, you'd be in super high demand. The salaries, for example, are like through the roof for Solidity developers, especially the top talent. But it's also high risk. So, especially in the bear market, which honestly we might be entering into, the demand for smart contract developers will drop down, and the talent or skills you learn with Solidity are not really transferable to any other job. Like Google, Facebook, Amazon won't hire Solidity engineers, for example. So, if you think like uh, you are comfortable taking on risk, you have a backup plan, you know, something else you can fall back to if Solidity doesn't work, or you are in a good financial situation, then you should definitely consider Solidity. It's a good choice, especially when you are young. It would be a very hard choice to make when you have, for example, family and dependents on you. You can't really like at that point get into a completely new unreliable tech. But at this stage, most of you, I suppose, are super young, so can definitely try it out. But yeah, keep in mind, if you have any like solid goals you need to achieve in the next 3 years, 4 years, then maybe taking a safer route would be better. So these are the two main parts you can get into the development path of blockchains, especially the backend side. You can also get into the front end, which is again very generalist. So learn TypeScript, which is the most used stack right now for the front end. I'm not a front end developer, so out of expertise here a little bit. But honestly, like even TypeScript is super generic. You can use TypeScript in other spaces as well. The blockchain specific thing you would want to learn here is how you connect that front end you have built to the blockchain itself. That would mainly involve interacting with a wallet like MetaMask. So as long as you can learn how to get data from that MetaMask instance and send data to it, signing requests and stuff like that, then yeah, this would be super nice. Again, TypeScript developers are in high demand both in this space and in general as well. So if you like doing either middleware stuff or front end stuff, then you can go in that direction. It's also super open. So these are, I suppose, the main directions when it comes to development work. But obviously, like it also depends on you. If you want to do something else, if you are good at it, just go for it. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to any guru. If you can get good at or get at the top percentile for any tech stack which is in use, you will do really well. So if you are good at Java, for example, there is a lot of scope in Java as well. There are a bunch of companies hiring senior Java developers. If you enjoy doing Java, just do Java. You don't need to do Rust or Golang or anything. Just do what your heart says. And I guess that's the most important lesson. Just listen to like what you really want to do. Don't get into something just because everyone else is saying that. Uh, and yeah, this sort of gives me a flashback of my time when I was choosing like which course to pick up. So I guess people who have done engineering from India will have similar dilemma. You can get uh, different course in a better university, like maybe get chemical engineering or mechanical engineering EC in some university which is a tier of, or you can get computer science in a university which may be a tier down. So which one do you choose? I see like a bunch of my friends made the choice of going with a high name university, while I was determined since start that I just want to do computer science, doesn't matter from where I do. And I still believe that was the right choice. Just do like what you actually want to do. The university name does not really matter after 1 year or 2 years, even in the start. Like if you are good at what you do, the university name does not matter from day zero. But yes, it can definitely help you land some job if you are unsure about what you want to do with your life, which is normal. You just haven't found something you are really passionate about right now. It can happen, definitely happens with many people. Just keep following a generic path. There's no problem with it, and eventually you'll find something you actually love doing, and then you can just keep focusing on it. uh, it might be blockchains, it might not be blockchains, it can be anything. It might be development, it might be writing songs, it might be stand-up comedy, it can be anything. There is scope for everything. Just do what you really enjoy and you'll do good. So that is, I think, like how developers can break into the web3 space. uh, as far as like other roles go, so for like at your stage, if you are in college for example, you may not have enough time to actually start learning all of these things from a developer's perspective, or start developing to these big code bases. And that reminds me, contributing to code bases is another great way to get involved. Find any open source project, just do minor changes into this. Like even if you don't add a feature that is useful to them, if you just show people that you want to, like, you understand the code base, you made some change, you made some effort, that's a good tip to get hired. uh, if you just like, developers really want to see people actually contributing to the code, and that gives you a huge edge in hiring. Whenever a hiring manager is looking at profiles and he sees a profile which has already contributed to their code base, which means they already knew uh, at least something about the code base, that gives you a huge advantage over the other people. That counts as a relevant experience. So yeah, do contribute to code bases that you eventually might want to apply to, or you enjoy reading or whatever, because contributing to these code bases is actually a very good learning exercise as well. uh, Contribute to the top code bases which follow the best practices, and then you'll actually realize like how to write proper production code. Because unless something drastically has changed in the Indian education system, the programming you learn at colleges is completely different from programming which is considered good paradigm or good programming language, good practices or whatever. So yeah, do learn it good, do look at good practical code bases and what they are doing, try to replicate that, rather than blindly following what people do in colleges or what teachers might ask you to do in college. Colleges are great for knowing what you want to learn, but like to actually learn it, honestly, you just have to learn it from elsewhere. The Indian education system unfortunately does not give you the most up to date information. They can tell you, you want to learn this topic, you should be learning this topic. Like they can tell you about SDLC, software development life cycle, but they'll teach you shit about it. So once you recognize there is something that exists as SDLC, just Google about it, just realize what happens in real life, how real companies manage SDLC, what like how security is involved in there, what's the role of different like teams in there. So that practical knowledge is worth a lot more than what you'll read in books, like waterfall model and so on. Like nobody uses waterfall model, like but it tells you that some process exists in real world as well, and you just have to figure out what that real world process is. It might look similar to waterfall, so you can figure out similarities, but obviously it's not like word to word same. Even agile is never like word to word same as you read in books. But just knowing that something like this exists and then figuring it out on yourself is super nice. So yeah, be curious, keep learning new things, and keep figuring out what you want to do. In terms of other things, I'll just start like, yeah, if you don't feel comfortable yet to start contributing to the code bases, then you don't need to start with that. You can just join communities of different project and help them out in different ways. Like you can if you join any public chat of a big project, you'll see a bunch of people asking questions, and a bunch of those questions would be questions that you had a few months back or something, and you answered yourself, and then you can answer them for other people. The project will notice that you are contributing at least in some way, and then via that you can get involved in the project, maybe as a community manager, maybe as a product manager, showing that you actually know the product, you know the people, and you know what needs to be built. You come from a technical background. That's the ideal product manager, to be honest. So that is one way you can get in. uh, and just like any way you feel you can contribute to a project, find a good project you want to get into, just start contributing. And yeah, like people will take notice, you will get in. Once you are in, you'll keep learning. At this stage of your career, just focus on learning, just focus on doing what you really like and getting good at it. Forget about everything else, forget about money, forget about your role, forget about your position, forget about the workspace. Just focus on learning. And for that, you have to find a good team. One super important thing is get a good manager or a mentor. So honestly, like your learning within a corporate environment really depends on your manager. If they actually like push you to learn new things, or they just want you to do data feeding all day, if they are supporting enough, if they can like manage your task like based on what you need versus what the company needs and so on. So that's like when figuring out, when getting a new job, focus on your manager a lot, talk to them through the interview process. Think of it as a like a double sided interview. Ask questions to your manager, see if they'll be a good fit, see if they're a good person, see if they'll allow you to grow and learn, or they'll make your life hell and make you stay in the office for 9 p.m., like till 9 p.m. or whatever. So that's one like random life pro tip. Once you have figured that out, yeah, just keep focusing on learning, keep being curious, keep knowing, like keep exploring new things, keep learning new things, keep googling stuff, never stop learning. This is like a random quote I live by. I don't know who said it. That like the day you stop learning is the day you start dying. So never in your life stop learning. Just be curious, keep learning, and I'm sure we'll all make it. And I guess that's probably it for my talk. I'll open it up to questions now.
Hi. So my question is, like, how is your typical day as a information security and officer, and what are your like typical tasks that you carry over at Polygon?
Yep, sure. So my typical day involves more around strategy. So I don't really get to work at the low level code space anymore too often. I still look at code and do reviews every now and then, but more importantly, I'm more involved in planning what needs to happen. So hiring, for example, like managing resources for hiring, finding out good people, hiring good people, then like figuring out what needs resource allocation, what we can like what thing we can pull resources from, what needs to happen when. We'll first figure out what needs to happen, and then when it needs to happen, uh, and just like coordinating between different people. So obviously in a large organization you have multiple smaller teams, coordinating between them, coordinating with the founders, coordinating with the external people, so external companies we work with. Obviously like at in a corporate environment, if you work with any big player like Polygon now works with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Stripe, probably everyone, Reddit. So all of them want to know about how we are keeping our assets secure, how we can keep like our engagement secure with them. And that's where like my day-to-day thing comes in. I interact with them, answer their questions, help them understand what we are doing, explain our strategy to them, and basically convince them that we are doing a good enough job.
Okay, thanks.
Hi. So my question is kind of niche, but so smart contracts were essentially made to be immutable, I suppose, and so but that comes with the obvious trade-offs of leakages and vulnerabilities which are not fixable, and also the basically it's also a shift, as if you talk about the developers which are not used to this, have the idea of this paradigm change, right, of the composability and structure. So people have found a way of upgradable smart contracts. So my question is more from a like philosophical point of view of how do you balance that immutability and the upgradable upgradability of the smart contracts, and if it should be the case, then where's the line?
Yeah, sure. So I'll break it down into multiple things. So as you said, smart contracts are usually not upgradable versus traditional software where you can release updates every now and then, and that is why that is one key point why I say the smart contract development paradigm is completely different from how you develop software usually. The knowledge you gain from smart contract development does not translate well into the traditional life cycle. So yeah, like this is a one of information. But the as far as the upgradability techniques go, so yeah, you can obviously there are a bunch of techniques. I did a blog post in I think 2019 about it. Proxies are the most common way to upgrade smart contracts. You just replace the logic contract with a new one while keeping the address same, keeping the storage same. As far as the balance goes, it really depends. It is very connected to security actually. You need to find the right balance between security that comes from having immutability versus security that comes from having being able to fix bugs in time. So for a very simple smart contract, like you're deploying an ERC20, which you are 99.99% confident will not have any bugs, then you don't need upgradability. Just go with a fixed contract, uh, immutable contract, and then you give up the risk of having the upgradability mechanism being compromised. So this is the ideal like composition there. But if you are building something super complex, for example, if you are building a decentralized bridge, then you may want to add upgradability to that, because that code base is going to be so complex that it would be foolish to say it's a perfect code base. There will most likely be bugs in it. Hopefully not any critical things, but some minor issues here and there, and then you want the ability to actually fix them, upgrade them. So in that case, the uh, additional risk that you take on by having an upgradability layer is worth it. So it's always about risk management. What gives you the lowest like risk while keeping your exposure to a bare minimum as well. If you take away all of the upgradability stuff, then definitely you don't have risk from upgradability being compromised, but you have risk from smart contracts being buggy and you not being able to fix them. So yeah, it depends on product to product, and that's like a very per use case situation or per product situation you need to figure out.
Hey Mudit, this my question is very general. Like every day there are like new technologies and new paradigm and new dimensions of attacks, like hacks are coming in. As a senior officer, like senior person, like how you're keeping up yourself update and uh, like keeping yourself update and in sync with like all these things.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that is like one thing I really enjoy doing. That's why I say like keep learning throughout your life. You can never stop learning. If you are a doctor, you need to learn about new viruses. If you are a security person, you need to learn about new attack vectors. If you are a developer, you need to learn about new tech stacks. So doesn't matter which profession you pick, you just have to keep learning. For me, I actually enjoy doing it. So for security related things, I obviously closely follow the CVE releases, which are like vulnerability reports uh, that you can read. Like if any big product has any vulnerability, they'll announce it there, and then you can read about it. I also follow Twitter closely. Fortunately or unfortunately, Twitter has become a hub for like crypto stuff. You can find every crypto information there, and if anything happens there, I can take a look. Plus I've made good connection in this space now. So whenever something big happens, someone or other will usually reach out to me and like either get me involved, get my help there, tell me about it, warn me about it, or something like that. So that connection always helps. Plus, just your personal research. So if you get any free time sometime, uh, don't have anything fun to do, you can just pick up a new topic, start thinking about it, and hopefully you will learn new just by exploring things. But yeah, in general, it's always about like for security, there will be specific things you need to, like specific sources you need to follow. For other industries, there will be other sources you need to follow. But there always you'll find source got faced. One of the DevOps engineer got an email from a hacker which said, "Hey, you have been selected for this job. Open this PDF to read something." And they just opened that PDF, which was malicious, and that got their keys compromised and so on. So again, like this would not have happened if it was a traditional corporate environment with security in place, where that PDF probably got scanned and blocked and stuff like that. Or the DevOps engineer was, or not even the DevOps engineer, the person who actually holds keys to the bridge was trained in security and was trained to not open these suspicious emails. Then the other hack, Harmony hack, again very similar story. It was also a phishing centralized attack. Their keys got compromised and so on. Nothing bad about their bridge itself. If any auditor, crypto auditor, audited them, they would have gotten a green light. Nothing wrong would have been found. Yet they were vulnerable because the process around it was super bad. And none of these companies thought about auditing their process or infra itself. They basically forgot about Web2 security stack, and that is what got them wrecked. The big challenge right now in this space is there are actually people now know about smart contract audits. You'll see a bunch of companies do smart contract audits. There are like many that do. But there are very few companies who do a full service security thing. So like people who can do smart contract audits, plus they can review your process, they can review your code management, they can look at your infrastructure, they can help you throughout the security process. There are very few companies in this space, and that is why like it's basically a lack of awareness issue, lack of knowledge issue. The executives don't know that they need to secure against these attack vectors, so they just don't do it. And like it's not like they didn't want or they said no to securing these all of the projects that got hacked. They just didn't know that this is something they need to secure. They just didn't have the right talent. So I've been telling big projects now for a long time that uh, get the right security talent, because you don't even know what needs to be secure. Don't try to find people to secure X. Just find security people and they'll tell you what X is that needs to be secured. um, and that is the case with bridges right now. Most companies don't know, even companies that are running the bridges don't know what needs to be secure, so they can't obviously secure that. They just need to find the right talent who can actually tell them, hey, this component needs proper security assessment, this component also needs it, and obviously this also needs it.
Uh, I have another question, if you don't mind. So this is a very substrate specific question. So I think with substrate, you see a lot of macros, and the macros in term, Rust itself is a very steep learning curve. And on top of that, we have macros. And the way macros generate errors is that you can't really find out where it is. So what do you think about the overuse of macros that most experienced Rustaceans do, which creates a even longer steep curve for people who are starting out in the space?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. So honestly, the design idea behind Substrate initially was that it will be a DSL, domain specific language. It You won't be writing Rust when writing Substrate modules. You would just be writing this DSL of Substrate, and like just have things happen like that way. So for example, if you have ever used toml or YAML configuration files, it was meant to be something like that, where you just configure some things and it happens. You don't write Rust. But in practice, obviously that did not happen. You will end up writing Rust, which is expanded by macros. And debugging experience in macros, as you said, is super bad. It has actually gotten much better. If you had seen it 2 years ago, you would have screamed away. But they like I agree with you that the situation is bad, but I can just talk about how we can help fix it, because the actual underlying situation neither you nor me can fix overnight. It will happen overnight. It will happen eventually. It's a known issue. But what you can do for now is to find the right tooling. For example, Rust Analyzer is the best front end for Rust. I like for ID. I use VS Code. So once you plug in VS Code and Rust Analyzer, you would actually be able to get a lot of information from the macro errors as well. Rust Analyzer can detect a bunch of code paths and will showcase you what's happening where. And then over time, you'll like realize that you'll start noticing patterns, that if you get this error, then this would have gone wrong. If you get this error, the error would be seeing something completely else, but you'll start realizing that this would have gone wrong if this is happening. And when I was working on it, so I created an internal list of these things, that this error means this has happened, this error means this has happened. Now it's probably a lot like out of date. I haven't kept up with Substrate in a bit, but that's something you should definitely do if you get into Substrate deep. Just maintain this list for your own sanity. That if you see one error one time, just note it down the solution or what went wrong, and the next time you see it, which you probably will, you can just refer it back and then fix it that way.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question.
Yeah, hi. Is there a way to create more trustless and secure bridges? Because if there are private keys associated with the bridge, that basically means if you get the private keys, it's a centralized point of failure, right? So I'm just wondering if there's a better way to even construct a bridge which does not involve private keys.
Yeah, for sure. So both Ronin and Harmony bridges that got hacked were like multi-sig type bridges where there were like four or five. Ronin was, I think, 5 of 11, and Harmony was 3 of 5 multi-sig bridge. So they are obviously not secure. Avalanche has, I think, 3 of 4 multi-sig. So all of those things are not 100% secure, obviously. What's more secure is decentralized bridges, as you said, and they exist. So Polygon has the Plasma bridge, which is decentralized. Optimism has one. uh, Arbitrum has one. They have their own problems. Like, for example, they are so complex that everyone has added upgradability on top of them, so that upgradability becomes an attack vector then. But also that you have to have wait period and challenge period in them, so you can't bridge instantaneously. You have to wait maybe 7 days for the challenge to expire, and then you can unlock your tokens and so on. So they are not ideal, and that's why they are not used a lot in the practical sense, where unfortunately UX takes precedence over security in most cases. Like, even if to a user like Polygon, like, forget Polygon, even to any generic user, if you tell them, hey, this is one bridge which is fairly secure, you can use it and transfer your token in like 2 seconds, or this is another bridge which is maybe a little more secure but we can't quantify it, if you use this you will have to wait 7 days for your transfer to happen. Almost every user will pick the faster bridge, because 2 seconds and 7 days is something you can quantify, versus less secure, more secure is something you can't. And that's how like human psychology works. If you can put numbers against something and you can practically compare something, uh, you'll choose the winning side. So trustless bridges exist, are not very practical right now, but that is changing very soon. So Polygon will be launching ZK based bridges, which will end a lot of like pain points here. ZK bridges can be super fast in bridging. We have not finalized numbers yet, so I won't say anything, but they will be faster than the optimistic bridges that exist right now. And obviously, they won't need any multi-sig keys or anything like that. So they might be like the ideal solution. Uh, we'll see when they launch. But yeah, that's where we are heading. And I agree with you that the current bridges are not perfect. We are working on solving that.
That's awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Can we have a round of applause for Mudit? Awesome. I think Mudit and Devfolio have a lot in common. Never stop learning and never stop building. And yeah, thanks a lot, Mudit, for the extremely great session. Lots of great questions. And yeah, thanks a lot, everyone.